We're going live. We're live. We're going live. People are going to start joining soon. You can go over some questions. Fix your toe. Fix your toes. I know. We're going live. We're going to be live. I know. It's the last Saturday again already. We're going live already. I know. People are starting to join already. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that exciting? Isn't that exciting? People are joining. People are already liking the stream. Look, we got 2 likes. We haven't even done anything yet. There's 5 people who joined right away. I know. How you guys doing? Gonna give it time for everyone to trickle in. I know, this is so exciting. Slow mode is on. Send a message every once. That sounds good. Oh. This is so exciting. I know. Aren't you excited for Easter, Archie? I don't know what makes this the Easter edition other than Easter is tomorrow. Oh, you want to see the screen? See what's going on over there? That's just you. That's a video of you from the left. Yeah. It's a video of you from the left. How big is Archie? Who knows? It's a good question. It's a pretty decent size, I'd say. Don't you think, Archie? Do you think you're a decent size? Probably 17, 18 inches. Just looking at her here. I mean, she's long. She's full size. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good going. Oh, it's a pretty good. Oh, what's the problem here? You want to speak to the manager? What's the problem here? What's the problem here? What's the problem here? Go down. What's the problem, Archie? There you go. Oh, it's early morning. Can you believe it? We've been awake for a long time. Look at all these messages people are sending me now. Now they choose just as the live streams getting populated. That's what people choose to do. Or we'll give it 5 more minutes here and we'll start busting out. Give it a couple more minutes. How's everyone doing? Oh, I know, Archie. It's gonna be so much fun. We have to answer. We got so many bearded questions this month. There's so many questions on beardies. I know. You guys were really popular this month. I don't even think I made a video on you guys this month. And just people commenting on, older bearded dragon videos. Yeah. I know you guys are just popular. Good, happy Easter. You guys are just popular. You're just popular. I gotta answer all these questions. I gotta go through this big list today. I know. Sit you down. We gotta go through this big, big list. I got a list of questions here. Oh, all bearded dragon related to shoot through. So hopefully we can bust these out in like 30 minutes. We're just gonna shotgun them, Archie. Shotgun them to the people who've asked them. and go through. Oh, this one nail's getting a little long. And you got just one large nail on one foot. Oh man. Oh man. It's early morning and we got to shotgun some questions here. Yes. Look at your other nails while I got you out before I shotgun these questions. Good. Oh, they look pretty decent. They look decent. They look decent enough. If I face you this way, you're going to kamikaze off or are you going to sit there? You're going to try to kamikaze just right off, just run and jump? Yeah. All right. Let's get the list ready so we can start busting this out. How many beardies do I currently have? AP Web asks. What a great question. I'm glad you asked. Six. Six currently have. Was just seven, now is six, but maybe going up to eight soon. Uh, but the ones won't be along. Should paint her nails pink. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so funny. Do you know how mad that would make her? Probably very mad. I remember, I know I did the video and I think Kim Kardashian had just painted her dragon's nails. I could be wrong, but it was somebody had just like painted their bearded dragon's nails. And I don't see a health problem with it per se, but like what if the color, like the bearded dragon is then trying to bite the nails? That could possibly make her upset. I'm going to start going through this list a little bit, but as people trickle in, as always, if you guys have questions, you can go ahead and just throw them in here. Happy Saturday morning. This live stream's a little earlier than last week's or last month's, excuse me, only because it's Easter tomorrow. So we have some Easter celebrations today with some family early on in the morning here, but not too early. And so I want to get this done and then move on to that. Right, Archie? Right. Okay, great. So yeah, you can feel free to shotgun questions at any time, but I'm going to start powering through this list. If you're new or this is the first live stream you've caught or the first live stream you're watching, what basically happens is the last Saturday of the month, I do a live stream where I give channel updates, I showcase reptiles, but what the main key is because I get so many comments that are asking questions on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, whether it's to YouTube, no, you can't go on the computer, whether it's YouTube shorts or just the longer form videos that I post on Saturdays. And it's too hard to answer all the comments, and sometimes people are asking the same question but on different videos. So what I try to do is a catch-all. So I gather as many of the month's comments as I can, even when they're on older videos, so it doesn't matter. I gather as many as the month's comments that are questions and sometimes just statements that are just I see popping up rapidly, and I answer them on the live stream, as well as any live questions that may get answered during the live stream. But this is basically a chance for people to see if a question they answered or they asked, if I get around to answering it. If it's popular enough, it gets answered, uh, which is really good. So the first question I want to hit, I'm gonna be answering these questions on bearded dragons, and this is a question as well. These are statements that come up a lot. And happy Easter, good morning, happy Easter. And it is the not only the tank size of bearded dragons, and I've addressed this before, but also what you're putting inside your enclosure for your bearded dragon, which is really interesting. And this goes a little bit outside of bearded dragons as well to other, I think just really all other pets in general. But one of the big questions I get is either they should have a larger tank, they should have a slightly smaller tank, or I should be putting a lot of different things in the tank, backdrops, uh, lots of rocks, lots of branch style things, foliage, things like that. And what does that do for the bearded dragon is my typical answer. So when we look at these things, morning Peggy, when we look at these things, when we're adding fake rocks or real rocks or backdrops, even if they're printed backdrops or 3D backdrops that go inside the tank. If we're adding all these different rock enclosures and building little things for them to climb on, and then we're putting fake plants, maybe real plants, but most of the time fake plants. I see people telling me, "Oh, get this! It's like a fake cactus, and it will remind them of the desert." I'm like, "Oh God, help me!" What does that do for the bearded dragon? Well, I'll give you the answer right away. Spoiler alert: it does nothing. Right. So you adding all these decorations, it's for the human, for you, the owner, or for people who come. Now, I get it. You want your tank to look nice. So if it's just an all black PVC tank, maybe you want to put in a vinyl backdrop so it looks like natural rock or a rainforest or whatever, or a desert backdrop. Cool. That's just for you. Maybe you want to add a 3D backdrop. Okay, cool. That's really just for you as well. Um, and if anything, it actually, when it's 3D like that, it's going to go into the tank and it's actually going to get rid of more real estate room for the lizard. What about fake plants for your bearded dragon? Cool. Again, that's just for you. The decoration. You can say, "Wow, it looks like a fake plant." Now, it, as long as there's room, you can put that stuff in. It's not bad. Feel free to give decorations. When you look at the tank, you're looking at like a little piece of art. That's fine. But what's it doing for the lizard? It's not doing anything. Great. They don't care if there's live plants. They don't care if there's fake plants. They don't care if there's a million rocks. They don't care if there's one rock. They don't care if there's no rocks. I, you try to give some type of space thing. It's not enrichment. I'll tell you, enrichment is when you give a hamster or a hedgehog a wheel and they go on and they run in that wheel for 10 to 15 minutes. And let me be clear, if lizards really did that, then I'd be putting wheels in there or a treadmill or something like that that they can get on, they can exercise, they can run on. But the truth is they don't do that. And it's the same thing with tank size. They don't just in the wild, they don't just go on like, "Hey, I'm going to go for a mile long hike today or a mile long jog." No, even in the wild, it's all about conserving energy, conserving food, conserving that fat, because they don't know where they're going to find the next meal, how big the next meal is going to be, and when the next meal is going to be. So they're pretty stationary in the wild as well. Now, what's their moving for in the wild? Food, to find a good basking spot because maybe they're cold, to find a very sunny spot to absorb some UV, or to maybe find some shade because they're too hot. And when they go to brumate, to find a typically a pre-dug cave that they can back themselves into and wedge themselves in. So when you do all those decorations, it doesn't give the animal enrichment. The other weird thing is people will always talk about either shed or their nails. They'll talk about shed or their nails, and they'll say, "Oh, put like lots of rocks in there, or a big brick," because your lizard will go there and do it themselves. Spoiler alert, that's not true. So I know people want to think, like, how we have nail filers. I know they want to think that, hey, if you put a brick in there, your lizard, whatever it is, when its nails are getting long, we'll just go there and for like an hour, we'll just sit there grinding its nails back and forth on this big brick. No, they don't do that actually. And how do they do it in the wild? Actually, a lot of the times they don't, and it's sometimes like wild birds. But same thing with birds that are pets. You have to trim their nails. A lot of the times we see lizards in captivity that aren't having nail treatment done, with their nails curling over. Sometimes curling so much that then the nail starts growing into the toe or the bottom of the foot, or because they're walking on their nails, they basically deglove themselves. They so much pressure, it opens up the nail where it connects to the toe, and infection gets in there, the nail gets pulled out, the nail gets stuck somewhere. So they just don't sit there and grind their nails down. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the wild either. Same thing with shed. So people will be like, "Oh, just put a rock in there and the lizard will take care of it." No. In fact, in the wild, they're often found with lots of stuck shed. But what you see, even when you have a rock, and this is very common with lizards in the wild, is they have scars and scratches and wounds from where they dealt with their own stuck shed. Now, or just normal shed, I should say. And so, do they survive? Yeah. And sometimes you'll see people, and my lizards, they rub themselves, and you'll see like a spot where the scales are worn down and stuff like, because they had shed on their lip or something, and they're just rubbing their head because it's annoying and it feels bad. Not that they're trying to get the not they're not doing that on purpose because they know they're shedding and they want to get it off. No, they know their face itches and they're just rubbing like crazy to get rid of that itch. Well, why have them do that when the shed's ready to come off and you just go boop? They don't rub themselves, they never feel irritated, and they feel good. Because again, it was the thing of people were removing the shed too soon and people were damaging the lizard's scales. Okay, so just wait till the shed is correct and then remove the area that's just correct. Same thing with the lizard, though. A lot of the times they're rubbing healthy shed or healthy skin because there's this small area that's stuck and it's causing them irritation. Now they're scratching all the good tissue and they're damaging it, or they're scratching shed that's not ready, but the one piece that's next to it is ready. They do it even worse. So if we can help them, as long as you do it safely and right, you're in a good spot. So adding all these rocks that somehow is going to magically take care of the lizard shed. And let me tell you, a bearded dragon who's got shed up here, some lizards do roll over, things like that. You're not going to see your bearded dragon flop over on their back and somehow wiggling against a rock and get that shed off. It's just not going to happen. And also, same thing with their bottom scales. You're not going to see that. And also, if the shed is removed in the wrong direction, because their scales all lay, unless it's a dunner, if it's a normal bearded dragon, their scales are all going to go this way. So if she's trying to take off shed and she's rubbing that way, she's going to push all of her scales up. It would be a nightmare. And it is a nightmare. You can look at them from the wild. So as long as you remove the shed at the right time, you're fine. But yeah, these rocks and these other fake cactuses or live, it's not really adding enrichment, sorry, and it's not helping them shed. Now, if you make a large enclosure where they can climb and things like that, bearded dragons, like most lizards, do like to do a little climbing. So if you can make some platforms or a hammock or things like that, it will help. But just keep in mind, as they get older, that becomes harder. So you may have to adjust basking spot locations, heat locations, UVB locations as your dragon is becoming more senior to a less active tank. And it's no different than humans. When we get older, you see those commercials for those chairs that bring people, upstairs or in the basement. A lot of times as we get older, we can't do the steps as easy. It's the same thing. Now, what would be really cool if like we invented like some type of little elevator system that the dragon learned to use, and it goes in there and it brings them up to the top platform, and then when they go on, it brings them down, and they're smart enough not to kamikaze off and get their tail stuck and everything like that. That'd be kind of cool. Uh, but so that's the number one thing I want to address. Oh, and tank size in there, and I've said it before. The tank, 55 gallons is typically real good, especially as they become older. You can do bigger, but just remember that that's for you. It's not for the dragon. If you're taking your dragon out and you're letting them roam around and get some exercise, great. But whether you have them in a 3 foot tank, a 4 foot tank, or a 5 foot tank, you know the behavior you're going to notice of your adult dragon. They're laying there for almost the whole day and they sleep there. And sometimes they go here to eat or poop. It doesn't matter if your tank is 5 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 100 feet. You're not going to see them running figure eights. You're not going to see them running along the outside. You're not going to notice a difference of behavior. They're going to go to wherever the basking spot is. And then when they get too hot, they're going to go to the cool spot. If you have a water bowl and they drink, they'll go to where the water bowl is to drink or to float in it. And if you put a food bowl down, they'll go there to eat. That's it. That's all you get from the excess size. So I personally don't like larger tanks for bearded dragons because I want to interact with them daily. I want to take them out. I want to let them roam. They're not going to get that in their tank, no matter how big it is. It doesn't equal the same thing. Morning, everybody. By the way, who's joining? Happy Easter tomorrow. What is a bearded dragon's favorite thing to eat? Well, their favorite thing to eat is not like the most healthiest thing to eat, but typically it's some kind of bug, which is okay, but can be too fatty, followed by fruit, which again is okay as a treat, followed by some type of colored vegetable, followed by greens, which typically they like. But that's like I was saying, humans, man, my favorite thing is pizza, or my favorite thing is ice cream or cheesecake. Can't really just eat, a whole Junior's cheesecake every day, right? You're not going to last long. And it's the same thing with them. My Savannah monitor is 10 months old. Hello, Aiden. That awesome, awesome pet, by the way. One of the best lizard choices. I would say probably the second best lizard you can get, even though it's my favorite. Uh, and is only 12 inches long. Okay, so a foot. I've seen other salves that are larger than that when they're the same age. Should I be concerned? I'm worried she's done. No, you shouldn't be concerned, because, first of all, Savannah monitors are sexually dimorphic. So if it's a female, it will naturally be shorter, almost a third shorter. The females are quite a bit shorter than the males, actually. It's a weird pairing when you see them mate, because you have a Savannah monitor sometimes mating with a female that is the size of a bearded dragon, a male Savannah. But also, the Savannah monitor's length and weight is all over the place. I mean, it's even for males. You can get males at 1.5 feet. That's rare. And you can get males at 5 feet. That's also rare. But what's common is that 2 foot to 4 foot range for males, and just slightly smaller for females. So you don't know. Also, they haven't hit their growth spurt. Typically, they hit their growth spurt between year 1 and year 2. So you're coming right up on that growth spurt, which is kind of cool to watch. They will climb on top of the wheel and do face plants to the ground. Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, just this RDN Kaniki, your comment, that's something that smaller dragons, right? They'll climb, they'll fall, younger dragons. But as they get older, if you leave that climbing in there, yeah, you risk the risk of them falling, even off a platform or a hammock, falling onto their back, getting stuck. They can't get out. They can still breathe, but stressing themselves out, etc. So you have to just maintain it. Do beardies drop their tails? No, they don't. They don't drop their tails. Do beardies? Oh, beardies. I'm assuming that's what you meant, even though you said nails. But same thing. If their nail bed is damaged, like humans, let's say they deglove themselves and did lose their nail, even though I think you meant tail because usually they're drop, their nail would not grow back. Happy Easter, Tony. Howdy, howdy. Y'all get down to the bar now, you hear? Have a good day and thanks for the stream. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Archie looks so cute right now. Such a distinguished lady. Okay, so we I kind of combined a lot of bearded dragon questions into the first question, but uh, we'll go down. So the weather in the United States, springtime is going to get here in a month, hopefully. And people ask about how safe it is to bring their bearded dragon outside. What should they be worried about? You know, is it safe, one from a predator standpoint, and two from like a poison standpoint, which is a really good question. So just naturally being outside, as long as the temperature is fine, is there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some risks that come when you bring your bearded dragons outside, and it's the same risk normally that comes when you bring any pet outside. One is if you bring them outside without a harness, and you're not in a gated area. Well, do you want them to run into the street when a car's coming and get run over? Probably not. Do you want them to run underneath the bushes that you can not really get out, or a dog or something? So you always have to be vigilant. You have to know your animal. Will they take off at a burst? You want to be able to control this. Also, you may want to be able to pull your animal to you quicker if some wild dog, even someone walking a dog. You see people walking their dogs all the time, and their dogs aren't trained. They see a human even across the street, the dog is barking and going crazy, and the owner is holding the dog back with all their might. And sometimes kids walk dogs and stuff. Those are dogs that aren't trained well. So what if that leash were to snap, or that latch become undone, and now this is a chew toy, right? That's what happened to Tortellini. Let's remember that. So you need to be aware of that. But as long as your head's on a swivel and you're watching for that and watching your dragon, cool. Hawks or something flying overhead, cool. Now let's go to what they're going on the grass. Assuming you're putting them on your lawn, are you fertilizing? I don't fertilize, so if I get dandelions and whatnot, my beardies eat them. My tortoise eats them. Okay. But did your neighbor or the people across the street, did they just recently fertilize? Did a company come out and spray fertilize, but the wind is blowing? Could be on your lawn. So I know if it's going to be a hot day and I see that people have recently fertilized, I water down my lawn in the morning. I know it's going to evaporate, dry down, but I know that's going to clean it. And you don't have to do your lawn if you just have an area where you're bringing them. Cool. But okay, now what about bugs? So yeah, there are things, fireflies, ladybugs, things that could be toxic to your bearded dragon if they were to eat it. And trust me, they will eat it. But one is not going to be toxic and kill them, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, just know your grass, know the area. If it's filled with bugs, you want to know what kind of bugs they are. Um, and then even if it's a bug that's safe for them to eat, let's say a cricket that's outside, you're on the risk of parasites, right? That bug's outside. It could be loaded with parasites. Who knows? So make sure the area is clean, you know the area, and you're good. I like to wash my beardy when I bring them back in from outside as well. Thank you. Thought savannah monitors hit their growth spurt a little earlier. Thank you for using my mind a lot. I'm terrified doing something wrong. Yeah, I mean, the savannah monitors are pretty easy to keep as long as you keep the temperature right and you don't over fatten them. You've got a good pet. My salve is on the mid to smaller size to the point where I started to doubt his gender. He got a smaller slash smoother head than Simba, yes, but is clearly almost 3 and has finally hit, yeah. So Aiden, don't worry too much early on. You'll be looking at your salve in the next day. Yeah, it, and again, not only Aiden, like I said, even if the growth spurt only grows him a little bit, I don't know if you know if it's male or female yet. By 10 months, you can definitely find out. You could just have a male that's a little bit on the smaller end. Simba is a male who happens to be getting, close to 4 feet, and he's a little bit on the larger end. Who That's just genetics. Now, if you're buying a captive bred Savannah from the place, like from a pet store that's breeding them, or even from somewhere online, if you can see the parents and you see the length of the parents and the weight of the parents, that will, then you're going to see the genetics at play there. And that can help give you an idea of how big the mom was, how big the dad was, and, if you see any of the offspring from a year previous. So, Nala laid eggs this year, infertile, but that means next laying season, hopefully she'll lay eggs and they'll be fertilized. Nala is small. Simba is large. What the heck does that mean? I have no. What are you licking? Oh, you're yawning? You're just waking up? I hear you yawn. Yeah, I hear you yawning. That's distracting me. Can you stop doing that? You're doing it again? Now you're just really waking up. You're distracting me. Just cut that out. Thank you. So, does that mean that the males will be large and that the females will be small? No idea. Does that mean they'll all be small? No clue. Does that mean they'll all be large? No clue. I have no idea. I have no. Sometimes you see people with huge parents and the kids are small. Sometimes you see short parents and the kids are huge. So who knows? I know you probably don't have an anaconda, but boas in general. How long does it take for a boa anaconda to reach full length? Well, I don't have an anaconda, but I do have 3 boas. But this is an interesting question because like snakes are always growing. So full length, I don't think snakes have a full length. I think they're one. We know that reptiles always are growing, but there does come a slowdown time. But I don't think so with large snakes. I mean, if you're feeding them, they can just grow and grow and grow and grow. I've seen boas at 15 feet, female red-tailed boas. So how long does it take? If you're more wondering of when do they become like a good size, like you want to have a big snake, right? Because you're buying one of those snakes because you want it to be big. I mean, an anaconda is going to get out of control in terms of weight and length. You can have a 15-foot, 350-pound animal. That's huge. If it's a green anaconda, if it's yellow anaconda, a little bit smaller. Um, and then the same thing with boas. There's a lot of different types of boas, rainbow boas, Colombian boas, things like that. But if you're looking for, let's say, how long does it take them to get to 5 feet within 2 years? How long does it get them to get to 10 feet within 5 years? But they're just going to keep going if you have a normal boa. If you get a dwarf boa or something like that, typically because of what we've done with the genetics, you can see the parents, and if the boas slow down greatly at 5 feet, or any dwarf, a dwarf retic, etc., you get that within like 3 years. It's a good question. All right, Archie, I'm going to put you back because you're just yawning. You're making me annoying. I'm going to answer one more question from the list here, and then we'll see if we get more there. Let's see. Do I have any other bearded dragon questions? Oh, okay. Yeah. There's one more right here, and I put a star next to it. UVB and basking concerns. I get this all the time of my bearded dragon has been in her cave for 3 days, not brumation time. Should I be taking them out and putting them under the basking spot? Should I be putting them under where the UV is high? My bearded dragon only basks for an hour a day. My bearded dragon's only under the UV for an hour a day, and then they go someplace else. And, is that enough? Well, it's a great question. One is we have to trust, one, that if we have everything set up right, and I'll get into that the lizard knows what the lizard needs. And we have to trust that they know when they're warm enough, and they know when they're getting too hot to go cool down, and they know when they're cooling down that they're getting too cool and to go warm up. And it's the same thing with UVB. They know how much D3 they need to absorb, and once they absorb it, they can move away. So what's important from a tank setup point is that it's not too hot in the basking spot. That way they don't go there and overheat too fast and leave. And that you have a heat gradient, and then you also have a UVB gradient. That way they don't have to escape the UVB by going in a cave. So if they want to be out and be warm, they can still be in an area that has low UVB like they would in the wild. And if they want to be out and be real hot, they can go to the basking spot. But if they want to be out and still be cooler and absorb UVB, they have that. So you set up the gradient by putting the basking bulb on one end of the tank, not in the middle. And you put the UVB near the basking spot, but normally it's a tube. But if you have spot bulbs, you'd have more than one to cover a longer area. But you don't get a tube that goes across the length of the whole tank, because then the only way they have to escape UVB is to leave. So if you have a 3-foot long tank, you do a 22-inch UVB bulb. So you'll start it on the end of where the basking spot is so that they can be hot and getting UVB. And then you have it go, 2 feet over so they can be cool and be getting UVB. And then you have that last, foot of where they can be cool and have no UVB. So if you have all that set up correctly, then your dragon is eating and everything, then you hope that not just your dragon, but this is for all lizards, then you hope that they know what they're doing. Now, sometimes they're ill. Sometimes you're giving medicine that requires basking or warmer temps, or even warmer temps at night, because you need them to actually digest and process, the medicine. So you may have to pull them out and get them basking, or keep the tank on average warmer. But those are exceptions for when they're ill and you're trying to do certain things on purpose. Otherwise, you just let them go. I am going to put Archie back. And I don't know, maybe I'll come back with Tetra. Maybe I'll come back with Father Jimmy. I'll come back with a snake because there's a lot of snake questions on this list, but we'll be quick. Let's go. Okay. All right. So I decided to come with Nagini because I have a lot of snake questions, but they're mostly ball python questions. Uh, oh, she's nice and warm. Oh, that's so nice. It feels so warm. Um, and ball pythons they're the most popular snake, basically because of how friendly and docile they are, how easy it is to handle them, and the size that they get. Typically, the females don't get over 4 feet, and males are smaller, but typically your male 2.5 to 3 feet. So it's a very nice one person snake that you could easily take this and put this into the hand of someone who's never held a snake before, and that's what will happen. This is why they call them ball pythons. They ball up and they cover their head. So this is a good way to break someone's fear of snakes. If you give someone a larger snake in the head, even if it's not going to bite them, right? But now the head is looking at them and the tongue is moving and it's moving around them, that people start to freak out. If you give them this, they're going to start investigating. They're going to be like, "Well, wait, this is the snake. Where's the head?" That's what everyone cares about, right? Everyone wants to see the head. Where's the head? Blah blah blah. Oh, there it is, right down there. There's her head right there in that little gap. So you now start becoming involved and you're looking and then, you're touching it. And again, you don't even see the head. So there's no fear. And you're petting and you're like, oh, wow, this isn't slimy and this is so nice. And, you know, boom. And you're investigating. It's really cool. Love my ball python. When I take mine out, though, he explores, but it's much smaller than me. Yeah. So she'll they'll open up and they'll explore and things like that. But they also do this. If I were to drape her around my neck and things like that, she would be exploring, already. You've seen it in other videos. But this is so good. They're also not a super fast moving snake. Like you say, like you look at a corn snake and or a milk snake, they're super wiggly. They sometimes look slimy, even though they're not, but some of their colors tend to lead it like that, and their smaller, tighter scales tend to give that shine and that look. Even though they're smaller, people are more scared of them. With a ball python, you don't see that. But there's some downsides to a ball python. I know. This is a snake that potentially can brumate. This is a snake that can potentially go off food for almost 2 years and still be super healthy and shed and not lose weight. So, again, it's one of those things where you got to kind of trust that the reptile knows what the reptile is doing, because outside of cancer or something that you cannot control, your reptiles should not get sick if you're doing everything right. If the temperatures are always right and they don't get super cold or they don't get super hot or they don't get super humid or they don't get super dry, you're feeding them correctly and you're feeding them a good food source. You're not picking up roadkill. I'm not picking up a squirrel that's been sitting outside for 2 months in the street and then feeding it to my snake that's got flies and maggots all over it, right? So as long as you're doing those things, reptiles should never get sick, which is really cool. So because the food thing, sometimes it can scare people, but outside of that, I mean, it's a perfect snake. You're looking at an adult that's going to eat once every 3 to 4 weeks. So once a month, depending on the size of the adult, because then it can eat a larger prey. So then you're looking at something that poops normally 1 to 2 times a month. If they drink a lot of water, they may pass a urate that you'll have to clean up, but it won't have poop with it. Very low maintenance. So what are we looking at in the tank? Well, keeping the substrate filled, because when you scoop out the old substrate, you put in the new substrate, and keeping the water bowl clean and full, because she may go into the water. Now she's wet, come into the substrate. Now she's kind of created a little mud, and now it's on her. And then before she dries off, she goes back into the substrate. So she pulls that with her into the substrate into the water. And then also they shed. People always go, how often do they shed? Dude, there's whenever they need to. There's no way to know. I know, like they say, older ones shed less, but they can still shed a handful of times a year. Hi, baby. Or they could shed once a year, or they could shed multiple times a year. Yes, more when they're smaller, less when they're older. It's just with them growing. But so their shed needs to be removed from the tank. Sometimes it gets stuck to the wall. Sometimes it's in the water bowl. So you just have to keep it clean, but it's very low maintenance. It's the lowest maintenance you can get for not a super tiny snake. Uh, and if you wanted to go on vacation for a week, do it. Fill up the water bowl and go. Especially if they've already pooped from their last meal. If you need to get someone to come in and check if they drop a poop, they don't have to come every day. They can come every couple days. That's fine. If they do need to be fed when you're gone because it's the feeding time, if you're going to miss their normal feeding schedule by a couple days, it's fine. But if you want someone to come in and they have, 24-inch long tongue or longer, and they're feeding a frozen thawed rat, and they just have to open the tank, and if they have to wiggle it around, great. If they have to put it in there, fine. And they can see if the snake takes it, or they can come back the next morning and see if the snake took it. And if it didn't, take it out and throw it away. It's super simple to even have someone help care for them. I must leave. Talk later. Bye. My bipython always manages to shed without leaving his favorite hide. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating because some of mine shed while in their hide. I don't know if they are like starting the shed, if they come outside of the hide and then like work their way into the hide and bring the shed with them. Who knows? Or they're like curled up in a circle, and as they're shedding, they're just basically running in place, right? They're slithering in that same circle. But so these are snakes that are super friendly, will explore, but they're not fast. So someone can feel comfortable holding this. Again, I do yard work in the summer and housework with my ball pythons. I just do this, boom, boom. And when I'm standing, so there's not, something that they can just get to like this quickly, they'll sit here for hours. They'll sit here all day. Sometimes they'll curl up even more like a necklace. But when you're on a chair or something, they see that there's exploration ability, so they'll go for that. But when you're standing, they'll just and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about them just leaping off your shoulder like a bearded dragon or something, which is really nice. So this next question, it's not. It doesn't just pertain to ball pythons. It really pertains to all reptiles, but it was asked about ball pythons. And the question gets asked of how long can I have my ball python out for, if the house, how cold can the house be, things like that. It's a good question because it's all over the place, and ball pythons can dip really cold in terms of cold temperatures. But if the ball python's on you and you're 98 degrees, let's assume you don't have a fever. If it's under your shirt, if it's on, man, they can be out forever. They can just be out forever. If you keep your home in the 70s, low 70s in the winter, even if you keep low 70s, they can just be out forever again. You can have them out for just for the full day. Um, but it's really when they start to get cold. And keep in mind, if you have a lizard that's on the ground and it's running around, or you're interacting with it, that they don't cool off super fast. Now, if you're running air conditioning, the fear is if you've got your vents on the floor and your lizards on the floor, and then the air conditioning, 40 or 30-degree air is coming and blowing on them. Yeah, it's not great. So I know in the summertime, when I bring Simba out, or any of my floor crawling guys, I will close the vent in the room that we're in, just so when the AC kicks on, it's just not blowing that frigid cold air onto them. but they can be out long, long times. And if for some reason you do keep your home super cold, then you can use your laser temp, and when you see the reptiles starting to get a little cool, put them back and warm them up. You can let them warm up, and then you can put them back. You can take them back out. It's fine. But yeah, it's so simple. It's so easy. Let's see. Anything else pertain? What do people think is the best snake? It's up to you. So ball pythons, they'll even go in a hide more. If you have a boa, they're a snake that visibly stays out all the time. You don't have to have a hide for a boa. You can get a hide when you first get them and they're babies to make them feel more comfortable. But once your snake gets some size, like a retic, like a boa, like a Burmese, you no longer need a dark crevice for them to slam into. Where a ball python, you should always have one hide option. My ball python has a very quiet whistle when he breathes. Something at first I thought was an infection, but didn't sense. Yeah, so that's a good question. Sometimes not just ball pythons, other snakes you'll hear a little bit of a whistling, and a lot of the times there is some shed that is in their nose, and that's what you're hearing, the whistling sound. But some other times too, it is just the flap in their nose, and that's just how it formed. So Zelda, when she takes a deep breath out, you always hear a little whistle. She has no RI. There's absolutely nothing wrong with her. She did that when she was a baby, and she'll do that forever. I don't think I haven't looked into it, to be honest, but I don't think that there's a nose surgery for them that goes in there and corrects that little flap that's going back and forth, and it doesn't matter. So you just have to be used to it. But that whistling sound sometimes gets confused as a wheezing sound, and sometimes people get the wheezing sound and will think it's just a nose whistle, just like we can produce, and they won't diagnose. So it's important to know if they're wheezing and if they actually have a respiratory infection. But there's other signs that you can see for a respiratory infection, and again, it can be a respiratory infection can be 100% ruled in or out by a vet taking some swabs, looking at the gram stain, and seeing if there's bacteria present. Okay, let's go to the list here. Because we're going to get close, guys. It's almost been an hour, so we're getting close to wrap this up. Remember, if you haven't, please leave a like on the stream. All right, let's see what we got here. Done, 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 done. Oh, okay. So the last series of questions have to do with turtles, and also recently some people have made videos about turtles not being good pets, or how they should keep turtles, or the danger of keeping turtles, and this is just fascinating to me. um, Also because sometimes they don't even talk about the turtle themselves. There's just a lot of people who are do reptile videos, guys, who are just Google people or bring in things that make no sense. So a lot of people will keep turtles in a an aquarium type setup. People will call them fish tanks, but in a tank setup, and they'll make some type of makeshift basking platform. Only because the basking platforms that are sold are typically too small, especially for larger turtles, or if you have multiple turtles. And people will bring up that turtles are not great pets because of the potential. This is what one YouTuber said, and I don't say names, but they had an aquarium, a tank, and that the aquarium leaked, and then it ruined drywall, and it ruined the carpet, and blah blah blah. That is not on the turtle. You had a faulty aquarium, or maybe you had a really old aquarium that you should have replaced because the silicone may be going bad. But what's different between that than in a saltwater fish tank or a freshwater fish tank? The aquarium can fail. There was no thing of the turtle somehow broke the glass on the aquarium. No. The aquarium failed. That's tough beans. That could happen with any. That could happen with anything in there. Your bathtub could leak, you know? So yeah, you have the potential whenever you have a water feature in a turtle. Now, yes, if you have a 110-gallon tank like I happen to have or more, that's a lot of water. So, I've seen people who have a water fixture for their lizard. It's typically less water, but a seam could fail. And yes, with the turtle, you do have filters, and the filter, I guess, could fail and spritz water everywhere. But I've seen people use filters for reptiles. I've seen waterfalls for reptiles. It's the same thing. So whenever you're working with water, there's a potential for something to go wrong and spill water. Um, so that's problem number one. And then people say large turtles. I think this is another weird thing, but people really don't understand how much water a turtle needs. I've got these in a 110-gallon tank, and my turtles are fine. I see them swim around from time to time, but they most of the time they float in one area at the top or the bottom, or they bask. When you have turtles in a giant pond outside of hunting for fish or for food, because I throw live minnows in here for feeding as well as the pellets, I spread them out. But when the minnows are swimming around, yeah, the turtles are swimming after those fish, hunting them. But outside of hunting them for food, if you have a pond on your out back with turtles in it, the turtles aren't swimming around all over the place. They're basking in the sun. They go in there to sleep or to cool down. This is what's weird. I don't understand. The turtles are not swimming just constant circles in this pond. They're not doing a figure eight. They're not doing laps back and forth. No, they're kind of just finding an area and chilling. And they'll find an area where it's darker that they can wedge themselves into, or they'll be basking wherever the biggest rock is that they can have heat. So when people come in there and they say, this turtle needs this giant water fixture, why? So it can lay on the bottom and do nothing? I have no idea. So I have four turtles here, two red ear sliders, two yellow belly sliders in a 110-gallon. It's more than enough room. They get swimming. They have a huge basking platform. Let's say that was a 500-gallon. What would they gain? What would change for them? Nothing. Their exercise would be the same. Their basking would be the same. Nothing. So it's really interesting. I think turtles are a great pet. You've seen videos of my turtles. They're very personable. When I come in the room, they come up. If I stand up on the stool by their tank, they'll come up to the basking platform for me to pet them. I let Big Bertha, because she's so big, free roam. I dry her off. She follows me around the house. I pet her. She goes up to people when people are over and goes up to their feet and stretches her hands out to be picked up. And you'll put her on your chest. I've done videos of it. And you pet her for 2 or 3 minutes. Then she wants down and walks around and then does it again. So they're very socially interactive pets. Um, and if you have a good filter, a good canister filter, you wash it out once a year maybe, because that live bacteria that's in there will keep the water clean. So people will say, oh, well, turtles are smelly. Yeah, if you have a big turtle, newsflash, it takes big craps. Have a big filter. There you go. If you have a smaller filter, you got to wash it more often. That's all. So there's my rant on turtles. They make great pets. You can keep them in one of those indoor turtle ponds that would go out back, or you could throw that in your house. It doesn't look as nice, but they're fine in tanks. Now, would I put Big Bertha came from like a 25-gallon tank when I rescued her? Because some turtles, you need to know what you're buying and you need to know what they can become. Because if you don't have that tank at the start, when you buy a turtle that's the size of a 50-cent piece, they can become the size of a basketball. So you need to know what you're getting. So even if you don't start out with the right tank, you at least budget and space wise plan on where that tank will be when they eventually need it. There's my rant. Turtles are great pets. You shouldn't regret getting them. If you regret getting them, you're not petting with them, you're not interacting with them, you're not letting them roam the house. You're just using them like a fish tank, viewing them from a distance and then saying, "Oh, that's boring." Oh, by the way, he just shed a week ago. Yeah, yeah, very nice, very nice. Would you ever do a video giving us a tour of your place? You know, I think I've shown a lot of the reptile rooms in a lot of videos. Not necessarily, I guess, a cage by cage tour, but man, I find those are so old. But you can pretty much tell because when I talk about the beardies, I'm showing all of their tanks. um, I'm things like that. So there's not much to see in terms of this is in this cage and this is in this cage and this is in this cage. You see them because I do the videos, and a lot of times in the videos I literally move from one cage to another, but don't call it a tour video or whatnot. But I could, I guess. It probably wouldn't be very popular though, and I'm more trying to make videos to educate with a little bit of entertainment, but really to help people. Scooter Lot says, "Hey, so guys, I'm gonna be wrapping this up. It's been about an hour. I have no more questions on the sheet of paper. But if anyone who's watching has any questions they want to throw out about any reptile they may have, or I may have, or they've seen, or they watched a video of mine, or and got a question, you can spit out that question now. It doesn't matter what type of reptile it's on. Uh, Otherwise, we're just gonna hang out for a couple minutes and then we're gonna get out of here, right, Nagini? I mean, look at this ball python. How cool is this if you're watching TV and you're just I raised her up, but I have my arm on my just on my legs, and you're just watching TV and you're just holding a snake like this. How cool is that interaction? It's super cool. That's how cool. And also, guys, just as my normal thank you, anyone who's a member of Patreon, thank you so much for supporting the reptile rehab and education and rescue efforts. 100% of the money I get from YouTube videos and from Patreon, it all goes to the reptiles. If you're a member of Patreon, you get to join the Patreon Discord, and it's a lot of fun. I'm in voice at least 5 days a week, sometimes seven, but at least five, a lot of the time six. But we're just a good group of people. We have a bunch of reptiles, Patreon people. So Discord is the biggest benefit. We do random videos. I'll do random feedings of, hey guys, I'm going to be feeding the snakes in an hour. If you want to join, I'm going to live stream feeding the snakes to you guys on Discord. I'm going to live stream just petting Simba. I'm going to live stream Simba in the bath. I'm going to live stream Simba playing in the family room with his toys, or just I have the bearded dragons outside. And I do a lot of just random off the cuff videos for Patreon that you get to see live, which is really cool. And then you get to chat with me and everybody else, and also the other people in the Discord. They do a lot of live videos as well of them interacting with their videos, whether it's a rhino iguanas or other snakes or other monitor lizards or other bearded dragons. There's so much live content, pictures. People have hermit crabs and videos of them, skinks. I mean, everything. It's a fun experience, and you get to be part of that experience for just $1 a month. You donate $1 a month, and you get in the Discord. If you donate a total of $10 ever, you get lifetime membership into the Discord. So it doesn't matter if you canceled your Patreon. You helped out enough to still be part of the family. I see leave bull watered bearded dragon laying it. Is that okay? Yeah, it's a good question. So yes, it's okay. Johnny Cage has a water bull in his tank. He lays in it all the time. He's the only dragon I have that just loves to lay in water. He'll lay on his back in the water, sitting up. He'll go in the water, he'll drink in the water. So there's just two things you have to worry about having a water bull in your dragon's tank. You need to worry about the humidity level. So you need to make sure that the water bowl is not directly under the heat source, because that heat source will evaporate the water and it can greatly raise the humidity. And you need to keep it clean. So the bearded dragon loves to drink the water, be in the water, but the bearded dragon also loves to poop in the water. So you but as you see your dragon, basically as soon as it poops in the water, take the dragon out of the water, clean the water bowl, fill it back up, wash the dragon and put it in. You're fine. If you do those things, you're good. You're good, you're good, you're good. Good question though. All right, and it looks like we're good. Look at up to 17 likes from a live stream. That's great. You guys are amazing. Also, it's important, guys, if you watch any videos, leave a like and leave a comment. It can just be a comment that says, "Hi, how are you doing?" or "Love your videos." It takes 2 seconds to leave a comment, and that promotes the channel. Unfortunately, it is what it is. It's what YouTube does. If I release an awesome video, excuse me, hiccup, and it gets a lot of views, but you don't leave a like or a comment, YouTube says you didn't like the video. Shocking, even though you don't dislike it. You didn't like the video and you didn't interact with the video. YouTube looks for interaction and likes. All right, we're going to wrap this up then. I hope everyone has a good weekend, a happy Easter. If you're doing Easter egg hunts or chocolate rabbits or just getting together with family, which is what we're doing, and eating a lot of food. Obviously, we did Easter egg hunts when we were younger. We colored Easter eggs. You know, we don't do that anymore because we are older, but we did get together and eat. And that's great because I love eating. There's two things I love: reptiles and eating. I like to eat while my reptiles watch, and sometimes I give them part of the food, especially if you're Simba, because he's spoiled. Carla says hello, but hello right as the stream is ending. Carla, if you just joined, if you've got a question, now is the time, or I'm getting out of here. And again, last call for anyone else who has a question. Coming in late, that's fine. Long time sub. Thank you. Any last call for? I really appreciate it. I appreciate long time subscribers. You guys are awesome. I mean, I was making these videos when I had 10 subscribers. Uh, it was a little more personable then because it was the same people and we had questions. Now I get 10,000 comments a day spread throughout all my videos, so it's a mess. No questions right now. Okay, awesome. That's fine. So that's why I give back with these once a month live streams. Like I said, I look over the comments, I compile them on the paper, I come in, I answer them. Then people know they can go back and look at this video, and it gives you guys the chance to ask a live question. All right. I am going. Where did you get your salve from? He came from a pet store. So, well, I have two Savannahs. So Simba came from a pet store when he was 6 weeks old. I don't know if you want to call that a rescue because he was just in a small tank, but surely someone would have gotten him. Now, Nala was a rescue. She came from a family that just didn't want to deal with her anymore. You can watch her video. They kept her on red sand, that Repta sand, which is horrible for any reptile. It's basically little shards of glass, right? It was in her eye pockets, in her nose, in her gums. That stuff is just horrible. I'm sure in her lungs because she's breathing it in. And they were feeding her live mice, and some of the mice were, and she was small, by the way, and they were too big, and the mice were like, she's got scars on her. I mean, the mice were basically killing her. So we got her off that, and just a bad diet for her. How old is Simba now? Simba is gonna be, I believe, I got 7 in June. So it's gonna be. It makes me a little sad. I'm not gonna get into it, but he's just getting older. That's all. Hopefully, I have at least another decade with him. But if we can push 20 and into low 20s, great. But he's my big boy. So, which is why I say Savannah monitors are the second best lizard you can get as a pet because they are so tame and they become your buddies. But they have the shorter lifespan of 15 to 20 years if you do a real good job. What you want to get is some type of rock iguana, Cuban rock, rhino, marine, any of those, because those can push into their 60s. But the average life of those, taking care of them, is 40, in their 40s. So you're looking at 4+ decades of just a smart pet. A little bit larger, potentially, if you get a male than a Savannah monitor. They eat primarily veggies, so a little bit easier to keep, a little bit more easier to train than a Savannah. Um, and they live longer. That's the number one lizard you want to get. How bad was the rough stage? So the rough stage was not bad and it was not long. It was maybe half a year where he was hitting puberty, so his testosterone came in and he was a little bit grumpy. That's what I would call the rough stage. After that, we were kind of just normal. Um, and he would sometimes still try to nip at my hand for food in the training stage. So I'd say the rough stage was about 6 months, and the full having him super tame where I could do anything with him took about a year to achieve that full mastery of that after the rough stage. But during that training thing, I had he was still calm, just not the most passive. I can take him now and flip him over and rub his belly, and he'll just lay there. Before he would try to squirm and get away. But so the fighty stage is about 6 months, and then it's up to you for how tame you want to make him. But if you do a rhino iguana, there's basically no rough stage, and the training just is months, just months. But they're less aggressive, so naturally. I'm 50, though, so my sav kind of works. Nah, that ain't bad. You can have a rhino iguana. You're saying you're not going to push into your 90s? I think you are. And you don't have kids or anyone? Come on. It's a nice pet that will free roam. I really like a challenge, though. Okay, yeah. I mean, well, there are challenges you can do with iguanas that I guess they're not that hard. But you can have your iguana free roam the home. You put a hot spot for it. You put a heating blanket, especially if you don't let your home get too cold. A UVB light with the hotspot. But all iguanas, you can potty train. Now the problem is to use the toilet, to use the human toilet. But the problem is you said you like a challenge, and that's extremely easy to do. I should say it's easy. It's extremely easy to get them to go into a litter box and use that to go to the garbage. A litter box with no litter, just a poop box, we'll call it. That's extremely easy. The toilet, we'll just call it easy. The toilet's a little questionable though, because like what if you have someone over who doesn't know, you have a guest or something, especially later at night. But if you have like guests over your house and they go into the bathroom to sit on the toilet, and then like your 5 foot iguana is sitting on the toilet taking a crap, like what will the guest do when they're not ready for that? You just make eye contact with him and he looks at you and you look at him, right? And then what do? You have to wait till it's over. You got to use the other bathroom, or do you say, "Excuse me," because the iguana doesn't shut the door. So yeah, there's tons of videos. There's tons of videos. Just look up iguanas using toilets. It's so easy. There's probably thousands, but there's even more of them using a litter box. In fact, I don't think Peggy is in here anymore, but she has a rhino iguana, and I told her how to basically turn a plastic bin and how to potty train him. And just after like the second poop, it's already done. So you're in a good spot. Well, I don't have an iguana that I can do a video for of that. Not yet. Charmander is not. Charmander's only like 2. Is they have to become adults because they have to be able to sit on the toilet and not fall in. All right. Very good. Very good. And Savannah monitors, you can actually potty train them as well, but to use a poop box, not to use a toilet. They're just not big enough. They don't have a long enough tail. Their body just isn't set up to do that. Okay, that's what Simba is potty trained to use a little poop bin. All right, excellent though, guys. I'm going to take off. Again, guys, have a great weekend. Happy Easter. Nope. comments that you leave again. So anyone who's long time, once a month, the last Saturday of the month, about 9:15 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, unless it's a deviation, I'll tell you in a post. Always these are going. You can join just for the fun of it. You can join a request to see reptiles, and you can join and ask any questions, whether you're trying to get into reptiles, whether I answered a question in a video but you didn't fully understand it, whether you're having trouble and you want some just enough to be dangerous expert advice, we'll call it. Uh-huh. All right, take care, everybody.